The Americas have long been thought to be the latecomers to the habituation of modern humans. But what if that wasn't true, and humans were in North and South America tens of thousands of years before we thought they were? What kind of lives did they lead? Where did they come from? Where did they go? Why aren't they still here? These are huge questions, and maybe we will find some answers as we trace back history as far as we can go. We of course need to add the standard disclaimer when speaking of ancient human history. There are so many theories and competing hypotheses in this subject of research that it is almost impossible to speak in certainties. Evidence will be examined, re-examined, and then discredited or reinterpreted. Any research done will be built on a foundation of sand that could shift with a new discovery. We will do our best to present theories and ideas unbiased and as up-to-date as we can. Interested in the distant and not-so-distant past? Like and subscribe to A Day in History and check out our other videos. About 13,000 years ago in the fossil record, there appears a series of archaeological evidence pointing toward a culture that existed in North America, Central America, and even into South America. This culture was largely identified due to the type of spearhead point used in hunting. This specific type of spearhead became known as a Clovis Point, named for a town near the initial discovery. First found in the 1930s, the Clovis became the prevalent contenders for the first humans to come to the Americas. It was thought that before the Clovis, there were no humans or any previous branch of our evolutionary tree on either the North or South American continents. This theory became so popular, it was thought fact and became eventually known as the Clovis-first hypothesis. That was almost a century ago, however, and since then, discovery after discovery has put Clovis-first in question. Some finds are hotly debated, and some are widely accepted, and they range in time from just before Clovis to unbelievably long ago. Scientists have had to rethink what was possible regarding archaic humans in the Americas. They might even have to rethink what was possible worldwide. When we thought the Clovis culture was the first in the Americas, we had good reason. The evidence of the Clovis coincides with a warming trend in the Earth's climate. This warming trend was what was thought to allow the Clovis to travel between two ice sheets in North America in a recently opened glacial corridor. Before then, the corridor temperatures kept more of the oceans locked up in ice, permitting travel across Beringia, a landmass now underwater between Siberia and Alaska. The appearance of the Clovis is associated with the decline of megafauna, and it's thought that the extinction of their large game species caused the decline of the Clovis in turn. There was a sudden cold snap in geologic time, about 1500 years ago, that was also thought to contribute to the end of the Clovis culture. It is hard to say exactly who the Clovis people were, and it's unknown whether it was one culturally distinct group spread across vast distances or if it was separate cultures that shared the same technology. We do have the remains of several different species of megafauna found at Clovis sites. The lineup of species almost sounds like Pokemon. Mammoths, bison antiques, gomphotheres, and camelopes are just some examples. Clovis and the cultures that followed were collectively known as Paleo-America and are directly and significantly related to the present Native American populations on both continents. It all lined up, all evidence accounted for and weighed. We knew when the Clovis got here, when they left, roughly what happened to them, and while we weren't sure where they came from exactly, there was ongoing research into what populations could have produced them. The puzzle of the first humans in the Americas seemed to be solved, which made the following discoveries so surprising. Starting in the 2000s, sites were being discovered that predated the Clovis. Some sites even predated the time where the ice sheets melted enough to let humans through. Suddenly, there was evidence refuting a long-held belief. We know there is significant signs of similarity in genetics between Native Americans, both present-day and recovered from archaeological sites, and some populations in Asia. Genetic studies suggest humans crossing the Bering Land Bridge between 10,000 and 40,000 years ago, with the possibility that humans crossed into what is now the USA before the last ice age, and then became isolated when the glaciers advanced. There are other theories that during the Ice Age, humans traveled the coasts and were able to essentially skip over the ice sheets via water travel and reach viable land. There are many examples of physical, archaeological evidence as well. The widely accepted evidence points to occupation from sites in Pennsylvania, Texas, and Chile, dating back about 15,000 years. These were sites not just indicating the presence of humans, but long-term habitation. Even then, those are just the least anthropologist upsetting bits of evidence we have found. Two sites in Canada, one in Bluefish Caves and the other in Old Crow Flats, both suggest human habitation preceding 20,000 years ago. Time out to say that these names are impressively epic sounding. There is evidence at Old Crow Flats that could be interpreted as being even older, 40,000 years ago. Sites in Mexico and South America have been dated even older than the Canadian sites, meaning that if humans did come from the north down, it was at least 26,000 years ago. Now we venture into the very dangerous territory of this subject, and many paleoanthropologists would shake their heads at this idea, but here we go. There are a few bits and pieces of evidence almost completely scoffed at by researchers and scientists that suggest human habitation in the Americas being much older. A site in California unearthed a mastodon skeleton that showed signs of being processed by humans. The dating on that skeleton, as of now, is around 130,000 years ago. There are stones surrounding the skeleton that could be described as tools, and the breaks and damage to the bones of the mastodon are like what humans have shown in other instances. Obviously, all these suggestions are hotly debated, but if the California site is genuine, it puts humans in North America before any other evidence of our existence outside of Africa. The earliest remains we have found as of now date around 60,000 years ago. Adding another 60,000 years on the other side of the planet would be an incredible shift to the story of humanity. A site in Brazil has charcoal deposits dating from 30 to 60,000 years ago, further supporting what you could call the long ago hypothesis. This is an amazing, if not extensively researched or accepted theory, but it begs the question of why there is so little evidence of human habitation in the Americas from such a long time span across such a distance. Here are a few more tentative theories to explain the scarcity of anthropological data. Please remember that we only tell the theories, not advocate them. So please keep the comment fire to a reasonable level. There is a period known as the Younger Dryas that coincides with the last of the Clovis evidence found, around 13,000 to 11.5 thousand years ago. This period is marked by a rapid cooling event in the middle of a warming trend in the Earth's climate. The theory in a theory here is there was an absolutely huge inland freshwater sea or lake that was basically dammed in place by glacial ice. When the ice melted enough, the water burst forth in a biblical level flood that ran all the way to the ocean, disrupting the salinity of the water and subsequently derailing the currents that were warming the planet's far north and south. This process potentially happened repeatedly over time. With that much destructive force, anything in the flood's path would be erased from history. Another theory is the impact of the remnants of a broken comet in the northern hemisphere at the beginning of the Younger Dryas. This impact, or possibly series of impacts, could have set fire to the sky, set off an impact winter, and even facilitated the first flood of the inland sea or lake. Only in the last 2 years has there been any potential proof of the timing of such an impact. In several locations around the world, deposits of platinum, nanodiamonds, and remnants of huge wildfires all date back to the beginning of the Younger Dryas. The devastation this would have caused is fit for Hollywood and could have depopulated a continent. The first people in America is a subject that is still up in the air, with much more research and study to be done before anyone can settle into a for sure reason like in the 1900s. And while we can't tell you exactly who was here first, we can tell you this: there are so many interesting and wild theories that whatever the answer, it's bound to be incredible. Ready for some more amazing content? Check out some of our other videos and like and subscribe to A Day in History. P.S. This one was like far out, man.